Thanks for joining. Um, I hope I got that right. I hope I got the right dots. Did I get the right dots? How many dots is that? One, two, three, four, five. Is it six dots? I hope I got that. If I misspelt your name, apologies. I think it's six dots. Yeah. Well, thank you. Uh, thank you so much for joining. I don't like to get the wrong dots and mispronounce your name. I think that's really rude. You've gone to the trouble of particularly picking a certain amount of dots, and I don't want to be that person who gets them wrong. So, again, apologize if I mispronounced your name. Um, just so you know, in Australia at the moment, it is what time is it? It's about 10 o'clock at night here, 10 p.m. at night. So I'm guessing in America. So usually when I do a Substack live, I usually do them like at 10 in the morning. A friend set this up, and I don't know how to. I'm only joking. Yeah. A friend set this up and I don't know how to change this crazy symbol. To be honest with you, I like it. I like the mystery of it. It's a very mysterious, you know what I mean? Like dot, dot, dot. It's like I don't know, it's like 007, except just a lot of dots. 8 a.m. Wow. So, hi, Naveed. Thanks for joining. Well, I got to say, it's very so it's 8 a.m. Now, I think it's 8 a.m. on the East Coast of America at the moment, because at the moment in the East Coast of Australia, it's about 10 p.m. 10 p.m. here. So it's we're working on different time zones here. I haven't done a Substack live at this time in like 6 months. So I don't really. I know it's super early in America. So it's probably going to be quite a cozy Substack live. There's probably not going to be that many people on here because it's because of the time. Because I think in America it's just Pennsylvania here. Oh, Pennsylvania, excellent. Yeah, yeah. Hi Maggie, thanks for joining. Pennsylvania, wow. I love Pennsylvania. I think Pennsylvania is a great area. Very, very vital Pennsylvania is to the election. England, oh my God, Eddie Martin from the UK. That's unusual. I usually get only people from America on here. Well, it's nice to meet you, Eddie Martin. 1 p.m. in England. Wow, what an interesting. This is really Zilton. Thanks for joining. This is really interesting doing a Substack live at this time of night, like my time at night, and all because it's like a different group of people that I usually get. Or sometimes Zilton's been in a couple of my other ones as well, and I'm pretty sure dot 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 has also been in a couple of my other Substack lives before as well. So wow, that's fantastic. 1 p.m. in England, that's incredible. So thanks, Don, for joining. Um, I'm guessing, Eddie, it's you probably live in London, Canada. Oh, Christian. Well, I know Christian. He's I know Christian pretty well. You've been on here before, and I've also seen you on my notes before. It's really good to have you on here. 9 a.m. in Canada. Wow. What isn't this interesting? So it's actually so I'm trying to think of the time difference, right? So 9 a.m. in Canada, that would mean that you're on the east coast of Canada, I would assume, Christian, on the east coast of Canada, because on the west coast of America, I think they're like 3 or 4 hours behind you, aren't they? So it would be like in California at the moment, it would be something like, I don't know, 4 in the morning or five, maybe 5 in the morning. Hi, Terence. Thanks for joining us. Um, yeah, thank you. Atlantic time. Right. Okay. Yes. No, I live in the West Midlands, an hour and a half from London. I've been to the West Midlands. Eddie, just so you know, I lived in London for a while back in the day, long time ago. Um, great area in London. I lived in Camden, London, and we used to go to the Camden markets. You probably know that, Eddie. Eddie, the Camden markets in London were really nice markets there, and I lived in that area. Beautiful area. But Canada, wow, Canada, yeah, I love Canada. Hi, Mary. Oh my God. Just so everyone knows, Mary Leather has just joined, and she's from Australia. She's from Melbourne, Australia. Now, Mary, as you probably know, um, I don't usually do Substack lives at night time. I usually do them in the mornings. So where she is, it would be almost 10 o'clock as well. So this is kind of cool doing it at night. It's like a completely different sort of feel about it. Like it's after dark, feels a bit cozier. From that, happy Saturday night, happy Saturday night. Eddie Martin, Camden is cool. Yeah, I love that. Yay! Hi, Mary from Melton. Kat, where are you from? Kat, where are you from again? Are you from where are you from, Kat? I think you did you say you're from let me just have a look. Get a bit confused here. Yeah, where are you from, Kat? I want to know where you're from as well. So we got people here from Australia, the UK, Canada, Melbourne, Australia. That's my that's my American accent. Melbourne, Missouri. Wow. So you're from the South, Kat. Wow. In fact, Kat, I don't know if you've heard it before, but I actually do a really good so I can do a little bit of an American accent. But just been to football match in Melbourne, 90,000 people. Wow. That would have been awesome. Who was playing? So Mary was obviously talking about Australian football, AFL, which is probably you probably don't know much about that. Hi, Elise, thanks for joining. Um, Missouri, I've got to say, Missouri down south, and I'm assuming you're a liberal. So, Kat, can I ask you a question? Are you surrounded by a lot of MAGA people, which would be interesting because I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but yeah, I'm wondering, Kat, because I think Missouri, from memory, is a more sort of a red area, isn't it? Yeah, spot on. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, do you have a lot of Kat? Do you have a lot of family members who are kind of MAGA? That would be interesting. You would think, but no. Wow. Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, of course, because I mean, this is the thing. Like when you see, and it's the same in Australia, right? It's the same here. Like you see somewhere, Collingwood versus West Coast Eagles. Ah, excellent. Yeah. I used to be MAGA, but I turned them. Oh, I used to be MAGA, but really? So you turned your family liberal? Wow, that's really good. I like that. Yeah. That yeah, so the, family, not me. Oh, right, yeah. I was about to say, Kat, look, and I'm and Kat, even if you were MAGA and you then turned, that's fine with me. I think it's there are people like, Joe Walsh, who I've spoken to before, who's the American congressman. And he was part of MAGA before, and then he saw the light and he's no longer part of MAGA. So it's fine to be, but I think it's great that you were able to turn your family away from the dark side. Um, he's a sweetheart. Yeah, he is. I love Joe Walsh. Spoken to him a couple of times now, and yeah, he's a really really nice guy. And it's interesting because the thing I like about people like Joe Walsh and him is that he's had this transition in his life where he was MAGA and then, walked away from that. I think that's really interesting for people when they change their politics. Both my parents were very, I would say, right wing, very conservative. And they didn't really, they were very hard to get to, but they weren't MAGA, obviously, because it's Australia. But my parents were very conservative. I just think it's the way they were brought up. They were brought up with that sort of conservative mind. But what we did successfully at my place when I was growing up is we just didn't talk about politics. And I think that's a really good thing. If you can, if you're with family members or friends and you just don't talk, yeah, you just don't talk about it. Yeah, I know it's hard to do when you're talking about someone like Trump. But I do feel like, Melissa A. Moore, who I do I do like a bi-weekly show with now called The Outsiders, Melissa and I, and she's actually a friend of Joe Walsh's. And our show, when we talk on The Outsiders, I show on Substack Live, great show, one of the best shows on Substack you'll ever see in your life. Just a guy from Australia, Joe Thomas, talking to a gal from America. Of course, Melissa A. Moore is from Philadelphia, where actually is where Rocky was from. Rocky Balboa was from Philadelphia. Hi, Teresa. Thanks for joining. Hi, Debbie. Hi, Shereen Knight. Thanks for joining. Elise, if they speak out for the right reasons, I'm all for it. But the MTGs and Tucker and Owens are self-serving, and most of their views come from the anti-Semitism, racism covenant. Yeah, 100%, Elise. I agree with you. I'm not one of these people who have jumped on the Marjorie Taylor Greene or Tucker Carlson or Candace Owens bandwagon. 100%. Joe, we used to be like that, not talk politics. But if they kept believing what Fox News says, we'd have Trump and MAGA forever. True. Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Yeah, I know. It's just sometimes I guess it depends on your circumstances. Like it sounds like Kat, your family was reasonable enough to have a conversation. You know what I mean? Reasonable enough to change their mind. But I think there are people out there who are just unreasonable, and when they're family members, I just think like if they're really unreasonable and they're willing not to talk about politics, then in my opinion, that's what I do because even though my family weren't MAGA, I just basically there was no point talking to my parents because they were never going to change their mind, and I didn't want to lose my relationship with them over politics. So I just, in my case, I just didn't talk about them. I didn't talk about politics. But I totally understand why, if I had parents who I thought I could change their mind, I would have done that. But I just think there's some people. But the reason I brought up Melissa A. Moore is because I don't know if you know this story, but her brother passed away a couple of months ago from a heart attack, and they had been not talking to each other for quite a long time because her brother had become a big Trump supporter, massive Trump supporter, and she stopped having they stopped. Well, they talked to each other occasionally, but it was different, right? So when he passed away, they were estranged, and so they weren't talking to each other. So I thought that was a bit sad. Do you know what I mean? That and she said, and I remember her saying to me when I was talking to her that she said, if I could go back in time, I um, I would have just put politics aside and just had a relationship with him because towards the end he just wouldn't change his mind. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's a problem with the thing about MAGA is, and I'm talking about the hardcore MAGA people, like really, really hardcore, is that it's like a cult. And I lost my dad to Rush Limbaugh years ago, and he never came back. He was getting dementia at that same time. I got so sad. If we were alive, he may have been MAGA and he fought the Nazis. Yeah, yeah, exactly, Kat. That's sad. That's really sad to hear, Kat. Um, yeah, I mean, this is the thing. Like, this is why I think people like Rush Limbaugh or, Rupert Murdoch, who's the owner of Fox News, they have a lot to answer for, really. And because their style of media was basically conflict, right? They basically just it was all about conflicts. Fox News needs to be dismantled and journalistic integrity must be restored. Murdoch has blood on his hands. Yeah, absolutely. And some people will say Murdoch speaks with an Australian accent. And I would say to that, yes, he does speak with an Australian accent. However, he has since become an American citizen. And therefore, as he is an American citizen now and lives in America, because he couldn't own Fox News being an Australian citizen, so he had to become an American citizen. Um, I can't take any responsibility for him. I would if I could, but unfortunately, he's now an American citizen. So I can't take any responsibility. But yeah, he's an awful, awful human being. Murdoch speaks with forked tongue. Exactly. Yeah, he does. He does, Sherry. Yeah. And I wouldn't worry about, yeah, it sounds, Murdoch speak, yeah. It sounds like an Australian accent, but I don't think it is anymore. Yeah. And the good news for Australians is his son, Lachlan Murdoch, who's probably going to take over Fox News, speaks with an American accent. So from now on, we won't hear that Australian accent when we hear the Murdochs talk. He's like I think he's like 90 something years old. He must be near 100 years old. He's pretty old. Like he's incredible. He owned newspapers in Australia back in the 1950s and 60s, like the 50s and 60s. He owned newspapers here in Australia before he went over to the United States. So yeah, it's 93, 93. Wow, 93. I mean, Elise, remember when Fox's defense in the Dominion voter case was that they are not news? Yeah, exactly. The problem is the viewers don't even know about that. Yes, mid 90s, I believe. Yeah, that's so true. I really got into that Dominion voter lawsuit, the case against Fox News, and you're absolutely right. They said they were just an entertainment part of the news, and that's basically the worst thing. I think the worst thing that Fox News did is they changed back in the 90s, and I'm talking about America, Australia, because he also owns a news company called Sky News, which is also in the UK. And our English friend here, if he's still around, would know that. It's an English run company, but it's also in Australia called Sky News. And he runs it similar to Fox News. It's very sort of a lot of it. Hi, Moray, thanks for joining. A lot of the Sky News in Australia and the UK is basically just Rupert Murdoch, a lot of Rupert Murdoch stuff. Yes, we have Sky News, exactly. Now, Eddie, I don't know in England if it's conservative, but in Australia, Sky News after 6 o'clock at night becomes basically like Fox News. It's all far right wing goes dot 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 dot. Rupert was married to Mick Jagger's ex Jerry Hall. Could never wrap my around it. Yeah, you know what? I reckon it might have had something to do with money. Every time I've been in Europe, Sky News was everywhere. At least, yes, yeah, that's true. Yeah, it is. But hi, Kathy. Thanks for joining this Australian After Dark version of Substack Live. Very cozy tonight, but I love it. I actually quite like it. Um, the thing about Rupert Murdoch that I think he did the worst is that it's less conservative here, has more journalistic integrity at the right. Okay, that's good to that's interesting because I wonder I wonder why Etty he did that in the UK, but in Australia, it's so I will say this, Eddie, during the day, Sky News is like normal news, but then after 6 o'clock at night, it becomes opinion news. So it's all opinion people, and they're all conservatives. They're like Trump, they're like Laura Ingraham or Sean Hannity. But before 6 o'clock at night, and in fact, we have a nickname for it in Australia, we call it Sky News After Dark because after dark it sort of goes a bit weird and it becomes very Fox News like. Um, but that 6 p.m. watershed is weird. Yeah, it's really bizarre because if you watch it during the day, it's pretty normal news. It's straight news, right? And then at night it's all opinion, and I think that's what Rupert Murdoch. That's one of the things that Rupert Murdoch did the worst. He he realized in the 1990s that more people are interested in opinion news than they are in straight news. And so what he did is he slowly got rid of the straight news part of the news organization, which is basically, you know, a bomb went off wherever or whatever. You know what I mean? Like something happened. They don't give you an opinion. It's just telling you what happened. And it's up to you to then decide your opinion, right? We didn't have, we didn't have, Elise, Murdoch was always tabloid news, which somehow has turned into a mass propaganda machine. Ronald Reagan is responsible for the rise of Murdoch, and his kids were strong armed out of their shares of the content, and he got the trust. Yeah, right. Yeah. Hi, Bluesome Boy. Thanks for joining. Eddie Martin, we have the BBC. They appear to be leaning towards the right. Yeah. And look, I think, I think, I think news should become more straight news, and we should have less opinion news. And because if you go back to the 90s, right? There wasn't as much opinion news. Like you would watch cable news like CNN and a lot of the other networks, even CNN and other networks, and it was mostly just straight news. The same in Australia. But then what happened is they were losing their market share to Fox News, and Fox News were the first people to bring in what Fox News used to do? They'd say, "I got a great idea. Let's bring in one left wing person and let's bring in one right wing person, and let's get them to yell at each other." And that was the start of that thing of having people just yelling at each other from the left or the right. But what they used to do is they would pick someone from the left who wasn't very good, right? And they'd pick someone from the right who was very good. So they'd always use, a bad debater on the left with a good debater on the right. They are so right wing now, especially Jake Tucker. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so it's become so Kat, that's what I've always accused about Trump. He's one weird way all day, but says in his prime time is different. I think he can get caught on Fox News. Exactly. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Bluesen. 100% Joe. Eddie Martin. Factual news reporting when I was growing up. I'm 68. Things not so straightforward now. Yes, exactly. Yeah. At least spot on, Joe. I remember the rise of all that. Yeah, and it happened in Australia as well. And this is all because of Rupert Murdoch, because Fox News did so well. Fox News did so well by bringing in opinion news, right? That all the other networks to compete started copying. So CNN copied, MSNBC copied, and they all started copying. And then MSNBC. Now, I will say this, that even as a left wing person myself, I still don't think it's good to have so many opinion people like Rachel Maddow. I think Rachel Maddow is good, but it would be better just to have mostly straight news, right? And then everyone can just make up their own mind. And then you'd have like maybe one or two shows, right? One or two shows that are opinion news. But most of your news comes from is straight news because CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, OAN, whatever they are, they should just be providing mostly just news. And then it should be, and then you go get your opinion news from somewhere else, like, Substack or Twitter or whatever, you know what I mean? But the actual news organizations, I feel should be just mostly focused on news. All right. Um, and that's going back to a time we have lost the ability to disagree group. Exactly, Eddie. Exactly. Yeah. Going back to a time and I think that's a good point, Eddie, because I remember, like, I think part of it is uh, right, just the news like the old days. Exactly, just the news. Like the thing is, why does the news organization have to tell us how we should think? Like, why do they have to give us their opinion? They're a news organization, right? They should say, what happened today is Trump did this, Trump did that. What happened today is the Democrats did this. What happened today is a plane crashed, or there was an explosion, there was a car accident, and then we decide ourselves what to make out of that. News then debate separately. Yes, yeah, and also like there's always been opinion. There's always been opinion news, but opinion news was like 5%, and the straight news was like 95%. So the opinion news was the bit on the side, right? Now, the bit on the side is the straight news, and the opinion news is like 95% of the news organization. So it's completely flipped. And obviously, it's been done not because they're done because they tried to, everyone was trying to copy Fox News because Fox News successfully, like in terms of, um, Fox News successfully showed a business model where you can make a lot of money by just telling people, by having people yell at each other. Um, at least 100% agree. But now we have total ownership of the airways with Ellison's. It's all corporate owned. Wrong people, voice, truth, facts. Yeah. How do we? How often? How do we get out of this? Well, I think the way. Thanks, Eddie. I think the way to get out of it is you can't get out of it by saying we need more left wing news and rid of all right wing news, right? Because that's just going to create a situation where you go back and forwards with each other. right? The way to get out of it for me is to go take news back to what it was back in the 90s. And that is, it's not left wing, it's not right wing, it's just news, right? It's just, we just get our news and then we decide ourselves, right? And this is where I think a lot of the conspiracy stuff that you see a lot of these days comes from. Like people like Tucker Carlson or people like Candace Owens, people like that, they have massive platforms. Why? Because I think they've kind of worked out a business model, a new business model, which is basically, if you listen, news should equal facts. Exactly. I If you look at the way Candace Owens does stuff, it's all conspiratorial. The same with Tucker Carlson. It's all conspiratorial. And they make it into like a storyline. So what they've done is that, like, you know how a lot of people listen to true crime on podcasts? I like it as well. I like it myself. I listen to true crime on podcasts, right? News should be information, not opinion. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. News about equal facts. Exactly, Sherry. That's perfect. Yeah. Um, so I think the new type of news. So we've gone from Fox News doing like cable TV where it's all about opinion, but obviously with the internet, that's become less of a thing now, right? Now the bigger thing is for younger people is basically people like Tucker Carlson and stuff, where they what they do is they mix together, right? True crime, like true crime, um, with podcasting and conspiratorial. So it's like a mixture of those three things. Mary Leather, I can't believe Candace interviewed Hunter Biden. What? Yeah, yeah. So I actually watched Mary. I watched the whole interview. I watched the whole interview between Hunter Biden and Candace Owens, and I will say this: Hunter Biden, um, it didn't shock me, and I'll tell you why it didn't shock me. Right, neutrality with facts would be a dream. Exactly, Elise. The reason the reason it didn't shock me is because I've seen Hunter Biden already been interviewed a couple of times in the last year, and Hunter Biden, and I totally, and let me just say this. Yes, a damaged soul. Exactly. Thanks, Shane, for joining. Hunter Biden is a private citizen. He was never part of the Biden administration, like, like Don Jr. and all the other kids. They're all part of the administration, right? They all work for Trump in some way or another. Hunter Biden was always a private citizen. He was also a crack addict. Hunter has zero fucks to give. Exactly. And so I think, again, but that doesn't mean Hunter is a perfect person, right? Hunter is, I think, clouded by the fact that his dad, Eric, it would be great to get back to Walter Cronkite. Yes, Walter Cronkite times, but not sure how we could possibly get back there with all the media options. People won't go back. Yeah, you're 100% right. That, unfortunately, Eric, that ship has sailed. The old crump. Yeah, unless we can come up with something online, and it would probably involve getting control of the algorithms, where algorithms aren't designed for conflict and they're not designed for people like Candace Owens and that to push conspiracies. But going back to Hunter Biden on talking to Candace, I think every time he gets interviewed, he mentions the fact that his dad, now it's about ratings, exactly. He always mentions the fact that his dad was pushed out by Democrats. And when he was talking to Candace Owens, he was jumping on board saying, Joe, you wrote a great post a while ago about the podcast taking over as news. Oh, thanks, Elise. Yeah, I did write that. Yes, thank you. Well, thank you for saying that. That's really nice of you to say it. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and it was a good article. No, I'm joking. Could podcast influence improvements in our debate about opinions? Could podcast influence improvements? Yeah, it's interesting because I can see a world where podcasts are a positive thing, and I can see a world where podcasts are a negative thing. The problem is that we're all, as human beings, not everyone, but just in general, we're attracted to conflict, and we're attracted to a lot of people more these days are attracted to conspiracies, right? And depending and what your conspiracy you're into will depend on what side of politics you're on, right? So if depends on his on the podcast exactly. So let me give you an example of a couple of conspiratorial things online, and maybe some of you agree, maybe some of you believe this. I don't know. I don't. I'm not a conspiratorial person, right? Um, except except the Earth is flat. That's the only thing I believe. No, I'm joking. I do not believe the Earth is flat. Yeah, uh, but I do think I do think there might be something to the JFK thing. Yeah. Also, the Loch Ness monster, I'm pretty sure is real too. Other than that, I don't believe in conspiracies at all. Um, Bigfoot, I think, is real. I'm pretty convinced Bigfoot is real. Otherwise, I don't like conspiracy. I'm just not a conspiratorial guy. Has the government been taken over by aliens? Yes, I do believe free Nessie. Exactly, Elise. Exactly. Like that poor Loch Ness monster has been stuck in that lake for like how long? Please finish your thoughts on Hunter. Sorry, dot, 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 dot. Um, yeah, so I think with Hunter, I think the thing with Hunter is he he blames the Democratic Party for kicking his father out. And he said it with Candace Owens, and he also said it on two other podcasts before this. Now, he mentioned what he said on Candace Owens is he said he of course Candace Owens he's to I think he was trying to ingratiate himself with Candace Owens, right? Because anybody there's a human nature thing I think where if you have a shared enemy, then you become friends. Do you know what I mean? And I think the shared enemy is Trump. And I think the other shared enemy is that Candace Owens doesn't like the Democratic Party, and Hunter Biden doesn't really like the Democratic Party either because he feels they kicked his father out. So it's personal to him. So so for me, I understand that it's a personal thing for him, but I completely disagree with him because he basically said. The enemy of the enemy is my friend. Yeah, exactly. I was trying to think of that while I was talking, but because it's like 10:30 at night, I couldn't put it together. Um, but yeah, and I was also thinking about Loch Ness Monster. He seems desperate to have his voice heard no matter whom. Yeah. I think I think Hunter Biden has seen an opportunity with people because remember, people like Candace Owens, people like Tucker Carlson, they used to really go after Hunter Biden. They were some of his biggest attackers, even though he was actually friends with Tucker Carlson. They were actually friends. And so a lot of times these people, they can seem like on the outside, like they hate each other. And then you find out they're actually giving advice to each other about where to send their kids, what private school to send their kids to. And that's what happened. Tucker Carlson basically, there's an emails going back and forwards between Hunter Biden and Tucker Carlson, um, where where he basically Tucker Carlson thanked Hunter Biden. This was years and years ago, right? Years and years ago, where he thanked Tucker Carlson, where Tucker Carlson thanked Hunter Biden for giving advice of where to send his school to, because they all come from areas privilege. It's like Hunter's prepared to side up to 600K Croc in the hope that together they can take exactly Sherry exactly. Hunter B wrote a college reference exactly yeah. So I think a lot of these people are closer in real life than you probably make it out to be. Like, I don't know if you ever, and I'm not saying Obama likes Trump or anything. He doesn't like Trump. But have you ever seen that? Have you ever seen the funeral? Who was the funeral of? I'm trying to remember the funeral. There was a funeral of someone who died not that long ago, like last year. And Trump is sitting next to Obama and they're just chatting away for like an hour and a half, like just chatting away. Carter, that's right, yeah. And they're chatting away like for an hour and a half, like that. And then afterwards, no, it was after John McCain. It was afterwards, right? And people were like, why are they're just chatting away like they're best friends? Yeah, it's one big club, and you ain't yeah. And what you realize is that don't get me wrong. I think Obama doesn't like Trump. I don't think he likes him as a president. But I think if Trump wasn't a president and he was just the reality TV star, right? A reality TV star, he probably wouldn't hate him as much. You know what I mean? So I don't think it's a personal thing. So I think in personal life, because Obama's gracious, yeah, he's gracious, exactly. And but he's Obama's a very nice person. And look, I don't think he. I think he got sat next to him, and so maybe he didn't have a choice. And Obama, being who he is, he's like, well, I'm not going to sit here and ignore him the whole time. But it just encapsulates a little bit. And I'm not trying to say they're the same, but just encapsulates a little bit that I think there's a world where people who know each other behind the scenes, they might not like each other, but when they see each other face to face, they don't always attack each other like they do online. Like Trump will say about Obama, Trump will say about Obama, um, Obama should be in prison. Obama should this, Obama that. But as soon as he sees Obama in real life, he's like, "Oh, Obama, nice to see you." And I was like, it's some of it is show, some of it is theatre, right? But Trump should stay in his lane. Never should have been put on TV with The Apprentice. Exactly, agreed. Lise, he is. What did Lise say? Everyone knew he'd suffer through it at his best. I love, I love Obama. I miss the days where America had a normal president like Obama, who wore a tan suit, a very good tan suit. He looked amazing in that tan suit. And I think that's the reason why Fox News and everyone gave him so much shit, because he actually did look very good in that tan suit. And I think it was jealousy. I think a lot of it was jealousy. Yeah. And a little bit of racism. Um, they prey on people's yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And I don't actually believe that Trump thought that Obama was born in Kenya. I don't think he does. I think he just says stuff because he wants to roll up his base. Um, but I just want to go back to Hunter Biden again, and just finish my thought on that. I think even though I understand from like a personal point of view that got to run, but thanks, Joe. That was fun and interesting. Thanks, Kat. Thanks for coming. I really appreciate that. See you next time. Um, Going back to the Hunter thing is, um, I think even though I feel sorry for him, at the same time, um, I don't agree with his decision. He was kicked out of the Democratic Party. His dad was, because there was something going on. As I love Joe Biden, but it was they did the right thing, you know, because you didn't want Joe Biden in the condition that he was in to go out with to go up against Trump. I just don't think I think it would have been worse than would have been with Kamala Harris. So I think they did the right thing, but I do understand from Hunter Biden's point of view because it's a personal thing. Um, but he's hi Heather, nice to see you. But he put it out. But when I miss Obama too, dignified, intelligent, kind, and what a leader. Yeah, he was very much so. Obama has been the president of my 71 years of life. Oh wow, yeah, yeah. I mean I'm not American, but I think he's my favorite American president for sure. I think he's my favorite American president. I wasn't a big fan of George W. Bush because of the war in Iraq. And it's funny because I remember when George W. Bush was in power, a lot of people would make fun about how stupid he was, right? Um, but compared to Trump, I mean, George W. Bush is basically a genius. Obama, yeah, exactly, yeah. PILF. What does that stand for? PILF. What does that stand for? I don't know that. Eric, the DNC is completely lost. They're beholden to corporate elites, crowdsource policy positions, and eat their own. Yeah, exactly. And I think you're talking about Ken Martin from the Democratic Party, who did the autopsy on 2020 on the 2024 election. And you're right, Elise, because that autopsy was horrendous. It didn't say anything. The autopsy basically gave no real information about what had happened. Right? In my opinion, I think I I do think anybody who would have gone up against Trump would have had a tough time winning. And the reason I think that is because I think in 2024, you saw a lot of incumbent governments all around the world getting kicked out. There was like MILF, but gotcha, gotcha. Sherry, wow, okay. That's a little risque. That's a little risque thing to say, Sherry. But I will say, um, it is 10:30. It is 10:30. Hi, Levy. Good to see you, Levy. Thank you so much for joining. It is 10:30 at night in Australia, so it's after dark. We can't talk like that. We'll even give a even a little bit later. We can rate presidents on attractiveness out of 10, but not till a little bit later because it's a bit early for that. I left the Republican Party in 2008 after George W. Bush lied about weapons of mass destruction. That party has gone down the wrong path. Yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. So you were part of the Republican Party, but you left after George W. Bush. Interesting. Yeah. Um, yeah, and I think I got a feeling a lot of people did that because um, they left. So let me ask you a question. I'm not gonna pronounce your name again. It's too difficult. Um, but let's just call you Dot. Let's just call you. Can I just call you Dot, and then we could just the rest of the dots we can. I'll just assume it's like your last name, and so I just call you Dot. So Dot, if even though you left the Republican Party in 2000, because I'm curious about this, in 2008, did you, um, yes, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you so much, Shem. Um, did you, did a lot of your policies become more left wing, or was it mostly just the war thing? I'm interested. Bowie made the special edition cover for Rolling Stones, Sora Grosses. Ah, right. Yeah, okay, cool. Bowie made the special edition cover for Rolling Stones. Wow, yeah. Elise, Harris couldn't have done better job with the time she had. Biden stayed, I don't think out of hubris, but because he really thought he could keep going, wanted to keep Trump out. He couldn't see the forest for trees. Yeah. And look, the way I looked at Biden was the way I would look at my grandfather or my father who was struggling cognitively, and you've got to take their car keys away, right? And you've got to take those car keys away because it's not good for them, and they might get into a car accident and hurt someone else. I think I think the criticism of the Democratic Party is that they didn't try to push him out earlier. That's in my opinion, because then what could have happened is they could have had a proper primary. And I think not having a primary was a problem, right? Because that then gave the opposition that yeah, agree, Joe. Oh yeah, thanks. That then gave the opposition, right, the MAGA people, and I think you remember them saying this a lot during that period, is they would say they're calling Trump an authoritarian, but they didn't even do a primary for Kamala Harris. Now, I know it's different because the reality is that the Republican Party and the Democratic Party can technically choose whoever they want. They don't have to do a primary. There's no law that says it has to do a primary, but it's more democratic to do it. And I think it's not just more democratic to do it. I think it's a good way to get your base excited because you don't want to. Because I think there were people in the Democratic Party who weren't excited about Kamala Harris. I also think Kamala Harris, one of the things that they didn't talk about, Ken Martin didn't talk about in the autopsy, which I think was really important, is how um, they 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 started talking to Liz Cheney, and then Liz Cheney was walking around with Kamala Harris, and they were campaigning together. And I think that was a mistake because that sent a message to young Democrats and to young voters that the Democratic Party is pivoting over to Liz Cheney, and of course, Liz Cheney's dad is Dick Cheney, and then suddenly you have the Democrats connected to Dick Cheney, and it's in a roundabout way. And the last thing you want to do as a Democrat is to be seen as Dick Cheney, part of the Dick Cheney, Liz Cheney thing. I don't think that's a good thing for Democrats because you might think Trump is bad, but there would be a substantial amount of Democrats who go, yeah, I don't like Trump, but I don't think Dick Cheney's great either. So you really had to separate. I don't think I thought about politics much back then. Too busy with life, became more aware, and finally became more active. My parents were Republicans, but not political, and we didn't talk about politics. Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. No, that's fair enough. And I think that's true. A lot of people as I said, my parents, hi, hippy dippy Shelley, thanks for joining. Thanks for joining. My parents were my parents were very conservative parents. Um, again, Australian conservative, so it's not a MAGA thing. But yeah, I don't think it's that unusual. But also, my parents weren't very well educated, so therefore, I think a lot of the ideas just came from just basic stuff like, oh, it's the immigrants' fault, that sort of stuff. At least left centrists are dying, progressives are finally getting their path. Yeah, you know, there is something that's happening, at least that's a really good thing. There is something that's happening around the world, and it's happened in America, Australia, where I live, and Europe, and that is you're starting to see populist parties pop up all around the world. Um, and I think what you're seeing is like in Australia, you're seeing there's a far right wing party called One Nation Australia, and it's similar to the Trump like MAGA party. And in the last 6 months, they've basically eaten the centre right party. The centre right party is now basically the far right wing party. The far right wing party has eaten the centre right. In the United Kingdom, the same thing. There is a centre right party called the Tories, has now been eaten by the far right wing party, Nigel Farage, called the Reform Party. And you see this in Europe as well. In America, the centre right party, the Republican Party, got eaten by the MAGA party, a far right wing party. So, yeah, they are disgusting. Exactly, Mary. And so, what you're seeing is centre right parties all around the world, Western countries, are being eaten up and basically um, they don't really exist anymore. And now the far right wing parties are now the centre right party. Levy, seems like the world has been pushed to metaphorically get a PhD in politics and law in the last 10 traumatic years or so just to survive. People are tired but more aware. Yeah, exactly, Levy. Exactly. And thanks, Eileen, for joining as well. Um, yeah, exactly. And look, I think what's happening is the reason why people are looking outside the major parties is there's a couple of things going on, right? I think this is based on data. It's scary to be honest. The extremism is out of control. Once fringe, now mainstream. Yeah, I think what's happening is, and I think it has a time limit on it. And the reason the far right has a time limit on it is because of one major thing. And I'm not in any way, if there's any boomers here, which I think there might be, in any way putting you in the same class as these people. But you need to take responsibility for it and apologize for it. I'm joking. I'm joking. Um, I didn't take. I did. Yeah, our two traditional parties, Labor and Tory, are being squeezed out. Exactly. Yeah. Um, so I think what's happening Saturday night in Australia with my Joe Thomas friends. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. My fellow Aussie Mary. Yeah. Um, I think what's happening is I think the positive side of things is that boomers, and not all boomers, and some boomers probably have 40 or 50 years to live. I'm thinking some might even live forever. So if you're a boomer on here listening, I'm not saying at all that, but I'm just saying that because I'm Gen X. So I'm just behind you. I'm just behind you. Um, but what I'm saying is that as boomers and the generation above them, I think it's the silent generation, as they pass away, what's happening is the biggest voting bloc around the Western countries in America, Australia, Europe has always been boomers. They're the biggest voting bloc, right? Um, Now, what's happening is as they slowly sort of move on to I'm a boomer. Oh, thanks, Eddie. And Eddie, yeah. Anyway, so as they slowly sort of whatever, and then what happens is younger people, Gen Z, every year every year there's less boomers, and every year there's more Gen Z people added to the voting block. I'm Gen Z too, Joe. Oh, hi, Sherry. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, Nirvana. Yeah. So in excess. But I guess what I'm saying is that the bigger voting block now is millennials and Gen Z in Australia. It happened 2 years ago. So what's happening? The average, and this is the same all around the Western countries. If you were to pick a female of 25 years of age, that person is more likely to be very progressive, even more progressive than a centre left party like the Democrats or the Labor Party in Australia or in the UK. If you were to pick a 25-year-old man, he's more likely to be centre left. Um, Here we go. Let's have a look. Bluesen Bob. There is no normal Republican in the US. It's the Trumpian party. But the US is going to the route of Hungary, and some MAGA is just getting in. I'm a boomer from Massachusetts. I've been through a lot and seen a lot. Our biggest threat is white Christian nationalists. Yeah. Exactly. Bruce Meatloaf, Boy George, Dire Straits. I don't disagree with any of that. I think that's great. Duran, big fan of Duran Duran. I love Duran Duran. Levy, absolutely. Elise, first crush, Michael Hutchins. I'm just outside of 50. Yeah. I got to say, before I came on tonight, and there might be some Americans, I don't know actually if people, I agree. Yeah. I don't know if many people know of her, but Kylie Minogue. Kylie Minogue is an Australian singer. She's like a pop singer from the 80s and 90s. And Anyway, if you're American, I'm not sure if you know her, but she dated Michael Hutchins for a couple of years. And this just tonight, I was watching the Kylie Minogue documentary, and in that documentary was a big part about when she was dating Michael Hutchins from In Excess back in the early '90s. It was very interesting. Yeah, they were a couple for yeah. She was really in love with him. Really, and I can see why because he was just finished watching the Netflix documentary on her. Yeah, I just finished watching it tonight as well, and it was interesting. I didn't realize she had cancer twice and all this, but yeah, it was a very interesting documentary. But yeah, I loved hearing about In Excess and her relationship with that. And yeah, he was a great guy. Very, very charismatic for a lead singer. I'm just about to watch it. That's good reviews. She was heartbreaking. Yeah, Eddie, it's actually I've got to say because the thing about Kylie Minogue, and sorry for the Americans who are listening to this, the thing about Kylie Minogue, she was a very big singer in Australia in the 80s, 90s. Then she moved over to London. I don't know how big she made it in America. Not as big as In Excess anyway. Um, but the thing about her is I always felt she was a bit embarrassed about being from Australia and being on like a soap opera when she was younger. But this particular documentary, she's very open about everything. It's a very open documentary. You should watch it. It's also nostalgic because you get to see all this stuff from the 80s and 90s as well. So anyway, I won't go on about it. But yeah, it's an interesting documentary. I highly recommend it. I'd give it a 4 out of 5 star recommendation. Now, I took 1 star off because we need a separate talk on Hutchins Yates soap up. Yeah, I think so too. Oh, definitely. Yeah. Canuck on here. Canuck. Who's Canuck? Canuck on here. Loved her. What's Canuck? I'm confused. Heather Varnish. Is that the name of a country? Wait a sec. Canuck is an abbreviation of a country, isn't it? Hmm. Canuck. Is that like Denmark? Thanks for the recommendation score. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the only reason I take 1 star off is because, Canada. Canada, of course. I can't believe that. I should have I knew that. I knew that. It's in my defense, it's quarter to 11 at night here, and, yeah, and I'm still getting over watching the emotional Kylie Minogue film, so I have a lot on my mind as well. Yeah. But yeah, so, what was I saying? What was I saying? I completely lost my expensive. Good guess though. Yeah, yeah. Canada, Canada. Joe is sleepy or sweepy, sleepy, sleepy. What was I saying? Yeah. So basically, I have no idea what I was talking about. Actually, we were talking about that, and then I was talking about something else. What was I talking about? In excess. Yes, great band. The thing about Michael Hutchins is that, I gotta say, Michael Hutchins, like, and I'm a I'm straight. I've never been in a homosexual relationship. Homosexual. What kind of word is that? I've never been in a gay relationship in my life. But I've gotta say, if you had to have one of those, those like, if you had to have, like, a gay experience, I don't think you could go past Michael Hutchins. Honestly, I don't think. Okay, maybe Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp and Michael Hutchins, I would say. Would Connie, thank you for joining, and I don't think you could have come in at a better time. Yeah. But yeah, I would say, but never a fan of his. Really? Wow. Never a fan of who, Mary? Johnny Depp or Michael Hutchins? Yeah. Hi, Connie. Good to see you again. Thank you so much for coming. We just finished talking about, the socio-economic policies of Southeast Asia. So we just finished our conversation. Wow, Michael Hutchins, really? Wow, okay. Really? Okay. That's come as a bit of a shock. Let me just block Mary. How do you block someone on here? Can you block? You can block, can't you? I think you, yeah, no, I'm not going to block you. Joe, it's been a pleasure spending Saturday night morning with you. Got to run. Man Spy on Substack. 9 a.m. with Malcolm News is on soon. Need to be told facts about Iran. Okay, thank you so much, Joe. Completely understand, Michael, but Johnny, weird. Oh, really? Oh, right. Sorry, I missed the topic. Connie, we were talking about we were talking about whether you found whether Michael Hutchins was attractive from In Excess, or Johnny Depp. Now, I've had some positives about Michael Hutchins, but I've had some negatives about Johnny Depp. So I totally understand that. But yeah, but anyway, blasphemy. Exactly, Elise. I can't believe it. I really can't believe this. It's come as a bit of a shock. Um, but yeah, like, love Paul Wheeler and Daryl Hall. Wow. Not Johnny. Wow, Johnny Depp is copying it here. Are you thinking of Johnny Depp from now, or you because if you thought of Johnny Depp from the 80s and 90s, I think that's a different Johnny Depp from that period of time. In my opinion. In my opinion. Um, but yeah. Anyway, I'll go back to, need to construct my shrine to Michael to discount the. Yeah, that's right, Elise. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I look, Elise, the thing is, love Johnny as well. Oh, wow. Okay. Big Johnny Depp fan. Yeah, love this. Hi, T. Thanks for joining. Probably the Amber thing. Yeah. See, I totally get that, Levy, because I kind of like the modern Johnny Depp. T, you've joined just in time. We're discussing some very serious political news. So, I would say the Amber Heard thing, like that part I didn't like about him, but the way I look at that is I think of Johnny Depp as, when someone's like losing, they're a celebrity and they're getting older. I think that's the new Johnny Depp. When I think of Johnny Depp, I'm thinking of the old Johnny Depp. I'm thinking of the Johnny Depp from Edward Scissorhand. I'm thinking about Johnny Depp from Nightmare on Elm Street in the 80s. Remember, he was on Nightmare on Elm Street. That's the Johnny Depp I'm thinking about. So yeah, I mean, Yeah, I mean, T probably thinks different. I don't know what T thinks, but, yeah. Um, but I can certainly see that. But Mary, thank you for jumping on board the Johnny Depp thing. True regarding acting skills. Yeah, he's got good acting skills. 21 Jump Street. He was amazing in 21 Jump Street. The hair. Remember his hair? He had amazing hair. Yeah. And I'm saying that as a straight person. Well, after this conversation, I might have to reconsider that. Yeah, so 21 Jump Street, yes, he was amazing in that as well. So yeah, there's, and that's the great thing. There's been so many good things that have come out of America. So many, the best show. Yeah, I love 20. Look, I was a big fan. And I've got to say, um, the other show that I liked was Miami Vice. Do you remember Miami Vice with what's his name? That guy, Don. Is it Don? He used to have like that white jacket, and he'd have like a white t-shirt. I talk with the missus is coming. Yeah, yeah, yeah. She'll understand. She'll understand because I got to say that she's also Don Johnson. Don Johnson. Yeah, yeah. He was more like he wasn't. Yeah, Don Johnson. Yeah, yeah. Exactly. Yeah, everyone knew Don Johnson. Yeah, Dim Johnson. He's that must be a different guy, Dim Johnson. I don't know him. But um, Dim Johnson, like he had those. Remember, he had those like jackets that he wore, and he always wore like I think it was like a black T-shirt underneath. Um, Philip Michael Thomas. Philip Michael Thomas. Okay. Now I know the name, but I can't remember what he's in. What is Philip Michael Thomas in? What is he in? Versace. Oh, right. Yes. Yes. You're right. Absolutely. Versace. Yeah. 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 Good style. He was the other guy. Yes. Yes. Partner. Yes. His daughter is Dakota Johnson, who lived with Chris Martin for a long time. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, Dakota Johnson. Really? Oh my God. I didn't even think of that. Who lived with Chris Martin for a long time. Wow. On Miami Vice. Yeah. Philip Michael Thomas was also good on Miami. Yeah. Right. Yeah. They were like great shows back then. Dakota, lovely. Yeah. Yeah. He was the black guy. Oh, right. Yeah. Good looking guy. He was also very good looking. And I'm saying that also as a straight man. Um, so I will definitely have a chat with her later. I'll definitely have a conversation with her. But that's how Versace broke out. They wore it. Really? Wow. I thought Versace was well known before then. Now I know the Nazis. What did the Nazis wear? What was the suits that the Nazis loved to wear? What is the subject today? Um, the subject today. Um, what a sec. What a sec. What is the subject today? T. Reed. Interesting. Dakota G was in 50 Shades of Grey movie. Ah, okay. I didn't know. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that one. Not Versace, I'm guessing. No. Um, the subject today, T, it did look, we were political earlier. That's right. This is the problem. Like this, can I just say that usually, like when we do one in the morning, my time, it's usually a lot more normal than the night one. The night one is a bit like after dark. Like it's a bit weird. It's a bit weird. I don't even know if I like it. I don't even know if I like it. But yeah, earlier we were talking serious. Just so you know, the subject today is Joe's talk with his wife about the man he could possibly be with. Yeah, she'll understand. She'll understand. We're going to the we folks. Yeah. Hi Joe. Hi Donna. Good to see you. Hi, it's my fault, fellow Aussie. Yeah, I think I would blame. It's early for me, but I'm awake. Yeah, and look, thank you, T. I know everyone. Most of the people here from America. There's a couple of people from there's a couple of people from Australia, from England. It's a real international. There's a Canadian here. Well, there was a Canadian here, but probably left after we started talking about Johnny Depp looks and Michael Hutchins. Um, any Tommy Emmanuel? Oh, big Tommy Emmanuel fans. Blue. I love Tommy Emmanuel. I'm actually a big. Yeah, I love him. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Blues and Bob. That's a good one. Yeah. Um, Tommy Emmanuel, my mother was a massive Julio Iglesias fan, massive Julio Iglesias, to the point where my dad would get jealous. Um, Elise, yeah, he is amazing. Elise, see, it's what Inexpans do when they very mention Michael comes up. No apologies. Yeah, look, people. It was the kind of discussion that took us down this road. Oh, you're right, Eddie. You're right. I don't even know how we got into. How did we get on? Because we were having a serious discussion about Rupert Murdoch and media, and we're talking about Rupert Murdoch. What an awful person Rupert Murdoch is. Someone said that he's an American, not an Australian. And then we talked about how Australia has no responsibility for Rupert Murdoch. And then we talked about how basically opinion news is killing the news organization media. And then somehow from that we got onto Kylie Minogue, and I still don't know how the connection between Rupert Murdoch and Kylie Minogue. I'm going to have to go back and watch it and see where it slid into the different area, because we were, I reckon, half 40 minutes talking serious politics about media, and also Hunter Biden. Love David Bowie, massive David Bowie fan. In fact, I would say I think I probably prefer David Bowie slightly over Michael Hutchins. It's close, and I know I'm going to offend Elise here, but yeah, David Bowie is like the king. I really love David Bowie. Massive fan of David Bowie. I can't remember either, Eddie. Yeah. Somehow, and I have a feeling that the only opinion matters now, it's all about setting the narrative. Exactly. Exactly. Um, yeah, how dare you? Yeah. No, I'm actually, do you know what, Elise? I'm actually gonna stick with that. I could have backed down. I could have backed down from that, and I was a little bit scared of what Elise was gonna react like, and that's what I was expecting. But since Elise didn't put an exclamation mark at the end of it, I don't feel as intimidated by it. So I'm going to say that I still love Michael Hutchins. I think he's amazing. I think Michael Hutchins is an amazing guy. I think Jeff Beck is my favorite guitarist. I don't know if you remember Jeff Beck. He's my favorite guitarist. Um, but yeah, I'm going to stick with David Bowie, and I'm going to say Michael Hutchins is very close by. But David Bowie was before Michael Hutchins. So in a way you can't compare. It's different generation. Do you know what I mean? So you can't really compare the two. Um, but yeah, I think amazing. He died too soon. Absolutely. Yes, Jeff Beck, amazing. Yeah. Joe Too Late. Jeff Beck is amazing. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Jeff Beck is amazing. I love Jeff Beck as well. Yeah, massive fan, great guitarist. Oh yes, Cry, tough favorite album. Yeah, he was just an amazing guitarist, and I think underrated guitarist, because everyone always goes on about other guitarists being better than him. Um, you know, but he didn't have the same cachet some of the other guitarists did, but he was still just an amazing guitarist, I thought, in my opinion. Very underrated. Exactly. Very underrated. And you know who else was underrated as a guitarist? Prince. I think Prince is actually a much better guitarist than people think he is. Um, because he's like a pop guy from the 80s and 90s. But if you actually listen to Prince, he's actually a very good guitarist. Steve Vai took, but Beck is underrated for sure. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Um, Milli Vanilli. Do you remember Milli Vanilli from the 80s? I think probably some of the best vocalists that I think I've ever seen in my life. Their voices were just amazing. Amazing, Milli Vanilli. I don't. The thing is, I don't know out of the two brothers who was a better singer, but for me, very underrated, Milli Vanilli. Hey Joe, on another subject, Tulsi Gabbard was fired according to Reuters. Yes, thank you, Donna. Um, Most missed Prince. Yes, exactly. Yes. And thank you, Donna. Girl, you know it's true, but it wasn't them. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Amazing. Underrated singers, underrated performers. And some people thought they weren't even singing their own songs, which is, I just find Prince was an amazing guitarist. Not sure how people could underrate him. Yeah, is amazing guitarist, because you know what it is. And Donna, I'll get back to the Tulsi Gabbard thing, because I think it's very important. Is that I think it's because Prince was like a pop artist, and people don't take pop people very seriously, especially from the 80s, and therefore, you don't think that live like Hendrix. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Hendrix is always considered the best guitarist. I think he's a great guitarist, but people like Jeff Beck, I feel like were technically better guitarists, in my opinion. I mean, I'm not claiming to be an expert or anything, but I'm going to write a book about it and do a 10-part Substack series about it. They had their Grammy revoked once people found out it was an unknown studio song was The Voice. Elise is talking about Milli Vanilli. Uh, Elise has come out with accusations against Milli Vanilli that they didn't sing their own songs. Now, I want to defend Milli Vanilli here for a second. Tulsi G has resigned because her husband has cancer, Mark Knopfler. Milli Vanilli, um, even though they didn't sing their own songs, I actually heard their real voices, and I think they should have given them a chance. I think Milli Vanilli were, yes, they were put in front because of the way they looked, but if you actually go and listen to their voices on YouTube, I think they could have done just as well, you know, and fantastic dancers, just absolutely fantastic dancers. Um, Mark Knopfler, yes, very good Mark Knopfler. Yeah, 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 yeah. So I could see Milli Vanilli together with Jeff Beck and rumors that producers made them do it. Yes, producers made them do it because they said their voices weren't good enough. But you know what I think it is, Levy? I think it's racism. I think it's racism. I guess. Sure, okay, maybe their voices weren't brilliant, but I have to say, they're actually, when you listen to their raw voices, it's not as bad as people think it is. They could have definitely kept their raw voices. How about Tash Sultan? Amazing. Now she has a full band with her. Yeah, right. Okay, I don't know that one. I think Blues and Bob is I wouldn't want to get into interesting, Joe. Very interesting. I'll just be over here building my shrine to a true singer. Yeah. Well, as I said, Elise, I'm also a big fan of Michael Hutchins, who I think is an amazing singer. And I would also help you build that shrine together because I feel like um, to me, Prince was also an amazing creative musician. He wrote a number of songs for other artists that also became top hits. I believe he also played a large number of instruments. Watch Prince's performance. I think it was at the Super Bowl. Yeah, I saw that. And Pouring Rain continued to play. Yes, exactly. Yeah, I 100% agree. I think Prince was underrated. I think Michael Hutchins, sorry, not Michael Hutchins, Michael Jackson. I just watched the movie, which left out some important bits. Connie, Purple Rain. Purple Rain was amazing. Yeah, Purple Rain is just an amazing song. Uh, when Doves Cry is one of my favorites. Um, yes, he played over 100 instruments. Yeah, he was very, very, very good guy. Very interesting. I would still put Michael Hutchins ahead of him. But obviously Elise is having second thoughts and maybe possibly putting Prince ahead of Michael Hutchins. So yeah, crank up in the car music. Exactly. Yeah. Prince is amazing. And Michael Hutchins, not Michael Hutchins, Michael Jackson, after watching his latest movie, and actually went and watched the Michael Jackson musical. And the Michael Jackson musical was actually pretty good. Yes, credit perform. The Jackson musical was pretty good. The only problem is I went to see it live at in Brisbane, and I had this guy. Milli Vanilli were experts in push and play. Yeah, yeah, that's right. And look, they were good dancers, extraordinarily good dancers. And I was watching Michael Jackson the musical, and I was really excited because they were going to play all his top songs. And the guy in front of me had, and I'm not being in any way insulting about him, but he had like a really big head. It wasn't like medically like something wrong with him, but just in general, it was a really, really big head in front of me. And probably the biggest head I've ever seen. And so what happened is that his head literally took up more than half of the stage. So all I could see was the sides of the stage. So for the whole 3 hours of the Michael Jackson musical, I just literally was looking at the back of this guy's head for three, and I could just hear the music, and yeah, Buffhead, yeah, and it was really bad because I couldn't even like get around to see it, and the worst part is that I just kept looking, I just kept looking at his head the whole time, like you know, and like after a while, I was like, I don't even know why I'm looking at his head because if if he can't see the stage, then like there's no point, yeah, looking at the head. And the other thing is, that's exactly right, Levy. I was thinking about emailing the theatre. And because what I did, and I hope you don't disagree with what I did, is I took a photo of the back of his head. And so then you could see how much of the stage his head actually took over. And I was thinking of emailing the theatre with the picture of his head and the stage and seeing if I could get like a partial like refund or something like that. Now, of course, it's not his fault that his head is so big. So I'm not blaming him in any way. I'm just saying that as much as, and look, I have to say, after looking, I don't think I've ever looked at someone's head for 3 hours before. Have to go, Joe. Glad I caught some on the podcast. Have a great evening. Yeah, thank you, Connie. I hope the head thing is not the thing that's making you go. Um, but um, I think this is an important part of the story that I think has to be told. Is that after looking at his head, you should ask Nothing Ventured. Exactly. I'm thinking about doing it. Yeah. Is that after 3 hours of looking at the back of, I've never looked at the back of someone's head for 3 hours straight. I've never in my life. Because if I'm on a train and there's someone's head in front of me, I just look at my phone. But I can't do that in a theater. So I literally just looked at this guy's head. And after it, I knew he had like 3 scars on the left hand side. He had another scar up here. And then I started thinking about where he got these scars from. And for 3 hours, because I had nothing else to, besides the music, I just had his head. And I think the tickets should measure your bonds before signing. Exactly. Sherry, I 100% agree with you. Thanks, Carl, for joining. I think you've joined a really good time. Um, I literally, like, and I'm not exaggerating, I couldn't see anything except occasionally I'm just talking, Carl, just talking about Michael Jackson play. I literally, I'd have to look at the actual sides to see the musical. But anyway, you know what? Um, I'll send an email and I'll see what they say and I'll let you know what happens. I mean, what I'm thinking is, just a picture with their head and that should probably give me the money back. I'm just thinking that. Yeah. Oh my God, that's funny. That's something I would do. Just focus on someone's scars and then how and why, where, when. Yeah. It really took me on the journey of wanting to know more about that person. Um, and I saw him later because for 3 hours, I never saw the front of his head. I just saw the back of it. And obviously, curiosity. If you spend 3 hours looking at the back of someone's head, it's completely normal and human to want to see the front of it as well. And so I waited to after we left, and I saw him get up, and I looked at the front of his head, and it was nothing that I imagined. I was imagining a completely different face at the front of it. Um, this will probably send you a booster seat. Yes, yes, yeah. This is the thing. Like, I think a lot of theaters they will have chairs that go more upwards. They'll probably send you a booster seat. Yeah, I think so. Of course, yeah. So you've got to get. I think the problem with the theater is that the chairs aren't elevated enough, um, and so the one in front of you is just like down by that much. So you don't get enough. So yeah. Anyway, that's probably too much talking about that guy's head. And also, I don't want to embarrass him. I mean, it's not like anyone's going to know his head. Blues and Bob has joined us again. So I'm assuming Blues and Bob thought, I'm just going to wait for Joe to stop talking about his head and then I'll come back and then he's still talking about his head. Um, but the good news is I'm going to stop talking about this guy's head. Okay. Stage crew is usually subcontracted. Better than Milli Vanilli fan talk. Really? Yeah. Well, that's because, Elise, you haven't actually seen the YouTube video. Because if you had seen their YouTube video, Elise, of Milli Vanilli talk, you actually sing, you would actually see that they're actually much better singers and underrated singers as well. Singers as that. So, yeah, I will stand behind Milli Vanilli every day of the week. I think they're sensational, absolutely sensational. Um, Something about Tulsi Gabbard. I don't think I've got to be honest with you. I don't think Donna's still here. Donna came in. I love Donna. Okay, so you were seated behind Miss Jenny Victor Bully. Wait a second. Yeah. Okay, friend. I want you to get back to you. Right. Yeah. Exactly. Please do. Please do. Give us some feedback on that. Yeah. Donna came in before, who I love, and she asked me a question about, oh, thank you so much, Donna. I honestly, Donna, you came in and you would have heard us talking about the head, and you came in and asked about Tulsi Gabbard, and I just feel bad because people are not here to hear me talk about someone's head. So we'll talk about Tulsi Gabbard for a second. Um, yes, I have heard that she was fired. And for me is now there are people out there who are saying she's resigned because her husband has cancer, and I'm assuming her husband has cancer. I don't think you would lie about something like that, not even Tulsi Gabbard. Um, but also two things can be true at the same time. Um, two things can be true at the same time. Um, her husband might have cancer, and she could use that as an excuse to get out because more worried about replacement. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, Tulsi Gabbard, this is the thing, like, out of all the Democrats, out of all the Republicans, some of the ex-Democrats are some of the worst. Like RFK Jr. is like really bad. Tulsi Gabbard is like really bad. Like they didn't even pick the good Democrats. They picked the worst Democrats out of everyone, right? Um, so yeah, I don't know. I don't Tulsi Gabbard used to be against the war. She was basically the one who said, at least Donna, let's catch up, girl. Joe's having an important convo with the missus, explicitly loves Milli Vanilli and seemingly thinks Bowie is good as like yeah. Well, that is true, Elise. Khabib's cancer is a legitimate diagnosis. Exactly. Let's just talk about what Elise just said for a second here. Donna, let's catch up, you girl. Joe is having an important convo with the missus. I mean, like, finding Michael Hutchins attractive, I don't think makes you gay. Finding Johnny Depp attractive, I don't think makes you gay. Thinking Milli Vanilli are great singers, I don't think makes you a bad person. Thinking that Bowie is as good looking, I don't know. Actually, sorry, Elise, I actually didn't say that David Bowie was as good looking as Michael Hutchins. I said that David Bowie was a better musician than Michael Hutchins. I think Michael Hutchins is better looking than David Bowie. So I was just talking about as a musician. Hi, Rick. I'm so sorry, Rick. I can only apologize for this. Levy, weird that she's not leaving until the end of June, though. Oh, really? I didn't know that. So Tulsi Gabbard is not leaving to the end of June? Is that real? Natalie Largo, per Aaron Parnes, the DOJ started scrubbing January 6th related information overnight. And what is that? I'll read this. And is racing to archive pages before it's taken down. I wonder if the page will be replaced with info on how to apply for Trump's slush fund. Yeah, right. That's interesting. That's interesting. Bowie genius. Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, look, the whole slush fund thing. Thanks, Lawrence, for joining. I really appreciate that. The whole slush fund thing is pretty like weird thing, like because like imagine Joe Biden um, created a slush fund, and um, and that slush fund was for anybody um, um, who was hurt, anybody who was hurt by by the previous Trump administration, right? Everyone would lose their mind. Like they would lose their mind. Like it's just insane. If anybody should be applying for this slush fund, it should be James Comey, Letitia James, uh, um, John Bolton, maybe, I don't know. Some of these people, Jerome Powell, who he went after. Like James Comey got arrested because of some seashells on a beach. Like that's insane. I was stuck at a concert out of town next to two women making out. making out. Wait a sec. I was stuck at a concert out of town next to two women making out vigorously, and the younger one kept knocking into me for 2 hours and spilling the beer on me. I was trying to teleport myself out of the whole time. Wow, wow, that doesn't sound like a good experience. Blues and Bob, thumbs up. Thank you. They would lose their minds. Exactly. Elise, when the corruption is out in the open, it's obvious they have no fear of consequences. Not sure how much they'll do before it all comes down. Exactly. Sherry, Joe's slush fund would provide Baskin Robbins vouchers. um, yes, Joe's slush fund. Yes, exactly. Yeah. um, he did. He did love his ice creams, didn't he, Joe? Like he did. You ever seen that picture with Joe and he's eating his ice cream? Like it was hilarious. It was adorable. It was adorable. Joe and his ice cream was adorable. He was like the thing about Joe Biden, I feel like his sense of humor was underrated, right? Not many people talked about his sense of humor, but I feel like he had like a dry sense of humor, which I feel was underrated. Um, all distractions from the Epstein files. Exactly. Yeah. Um, but yeah, like I also always found Joe Biden funny. Thing I like about Joe Biden as well is he wasn't that politically correct. Ice cream is like family values. Exactly. Yeah. It is. It is family values. It's the new family values. And as someone who's a celiac, I hope that he was eating a gluten-free ice cream. Because you wouldn't want to eat gluten in front of someone like me who can't eat gluten. That would be rude to do. Drier than a dead digger. um, Sherry, that's an Australian saying. Where did you get that one from? Where did you get that saying from? Drier than a dead dingo's dogger. Agreed. Dry human sarcasm are close to my heart. T, how about Hunter Biden talking to Candace Owens? Something is wrong with that boy. Sorbet, yeah. Yeah, sorbet is gluten free generally. Um, so T, you missed our conversation earlier. We talked about the Hunter Biden Candace Owens interview, and it was crazy. And I think the reason he's doing it, and we discussed it earlier, is because he's angry that the Democratic Party pushed out his dad. And sorry, but I think the Democratic Party did the right thing. I think the Democratic Party. No, don't apologize, T. You weren't here to hear it. But somehow, T. Somehow we went from Hunter Biden to Kylie Minogue, the singer, Australian singer. No one knows. It is a mystery, and no one will ever know how we jumped from Hunter Biden to Kylie Minogue and Michael Hutchins. No one's ever going to know because I just don't think they will. Because I don't think anyone could remember. But Hunter Biden, I feel is um, is so angry at the Democratic Party. I don't know how we got here there. Yeah. It's good to see you still around. Kimmy Wynn. Oh my God, Kimmy. Kimmy's in the house. Kimmy is in the house. Can I just say something? I got a message, and I hope Kimmy doesn't mind me saying this. Oh, wow, made it. I got a message from Kimmy asking me if I was going to do a Substack live, right? And I did it. I said, I'm going to do one tonight. Thank you, Kimmy, for joining. And she has arrived an hour and a half into the live. Biden was too old. Everyone knew it, and he never should have run for election. Exactly. I agree, team. I agree 100%. He should have. I don't mind at all. Um, he, Kimmy, you've missed out on an interesting conversations here tonight. Some of it political, some of it not so political. Well, I really missed a good convo, Joe being late. I'll have to watch reposts. Yes, you will. Yes. It got a little bit weird at times, and Trump is too old. Yes, I agree, Natalie. Trump is way too old. I think I think there needs to be a term limit because I think there needs to be a term limit on age, and I just feel like as much as I love Joe Biden, I felt like if Joe Biden had just gone, I'm going to do one term, it's going to be a fantastic term, and then I'm going to step aside and there's going to be like a primary, and then we could find out who the best. I think that would have been better. We transitioned from Hunter Biden to Kylie via transcendental tangent. I think you might be right, Sherry. I think that's what happened. Yeah, we via transcendental. Yeah, I agree on the term limit on age, and this is from a boomer. Yeah, and also like I think like there's a big difference between 65 and 85, right? I think a 65-year-old could easily be a president, right? But I think once you get into your 80s, you just don't know. Like you don't know what's around the corner. And I'm not saying this like, I agree with you regarding old age limit because it's demanding and stress. It is a stressful job. Yeah. And I remember I remember, but also you don't want someone too young either, right? You don't want someone who's like 35. I think that's too young as well. I think a good age group is like 50, like 50 or 55. I think in the 50s is good because you've been around for a while, but you still got a lot of years of working in front of you. Uh, you don't want a baby, exactly. I'm not sure what that means. There was a comment section to use through the FCC site because they want to demonize trans and LBGT people by having a warning on LGBT content. This is how awful and deep the demonization. Oh, right, really? There was a comment section to use through the. Wow, that's really bad. Seeing Kimmy flags make me think of this. Seeing Kimmy's flag. Oh, right. Yeah, too young. Yeah, exactly. Blues and Sky, my internet's sketchy. Got to go now. Getting plants on nursery garden. It's always a great conversation. Getting another perspective from another country. Love Australia. Went there. Stay safe. Thank you so much, Blues and Bob. Thank you so much for your contribution. Appreciate it. Thank you that you loved Australia. 2024. That was a great year in Australia. At least, yes, so many closeted. The irony. Yeah, there's a lot of yes. It was open to the public, but not a lot of people knew. Right. Yeah. Look, there's a lot of anti-gay stuff um, in the MAGA party, and as someone who finds Michael Hutchins attractive, I consider myself just because of that part of the LGBT community. So I will say this: I will say that I do think that uh, Johnny Depp a little bit as well. But I will say that, thank you. Yeah, I will say that I do think one of the reasons that a lot of the MAGA people use the LGBTQ community is because I don't particularly think they really I don't think Trump is anti-gay. I actually don't believe that. And the reason I don't believe that is because Trump's mentor, Roy Cohen, was an openly gay dude, and Trump didn't care less. Trump Trump is not like one of his supporters. Trump didn't grow up in Mississippi, or no offense if anyone's from Mississippi or Louisiana. No offense if anyone's from Louisiana, or I don't know, one of them southern states. No offense if anyone's from those southern states. It's a manipulation point. Yeah, I don't. I don't think Trump cares about gay people, about whether they're gay or not. I think he does it because he thinks his base wants to hear him say that. I don't think Trump cares about the LGBT community. I think he says it because he thinks his base wants to hear it. Like, do you remember sending? Would you remember? Do you remember that DoorDash woman who came to the White House? And the DoorDash woman who came to the White, it was like a stunt, and she was going to talk about it was about tips, and she was there to talk. And she was obviously a Trump supporter. Um, and Trump looks at her and he says, "Oh, so what do you think about men playing women's sport?" Right now, you might think that's a weird thing for him to say, but to me, um, that to me shows that he manipulates his base. He doesn't care about men playing women's sport. I don't think he cares about it, but he knows his base does. He knows his base don't like the LGBT community, so he panders to them. But I don't think he personally cares about that stuff. Um, when Trump first came to power in 2016, he was very close friends with what's her name? The trans woman who was a sports Jenna. What's her first name? Jenna. What's her name? Her name Kyle Kyle Jenner? No, I can't remember her name. Anyway, she's like she's a yeah, uneducated, yeah, exactly. And so basically he said trans people can use my bathrooms anywhere they want, right? Bruce, yeah, Caitlin, Caitlin. Can't say Bruce. Yeah, that's dead naming. Who said that? Let's shame that person. Sure. Anyway, um, yeah, at least stop, stop it. But yeah, stop it. But Caitlin, Caitlin, um, I'm so glad we're not that, we're not that, like, we can joke about that. Okay, so anyway, she doesn't deserve respect. Exactly. But anyway, Caitlin, Trump said Caitlin can use any bathroom she wants in any of my hotels, right? That's what he said back in 2016. And listen to him the way he talks now. It's completely different. And that's because he realizes his base doesn't like that stuff. So to me, it's actually even worse because I don't think he believes any of that stuff because he's like this New York guy. He grew up in this, socialites of New York. He would have been around gay people his whole life. He also doesn't really have a problem with black people personally. At the same time, he thinks whites are superior. Same with all the other groups, which Mal says, yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Trump has the same views about black people that Elon Musk does. And that is on a one-to-one basis. He doesn't really care that much. Like if Trump or Elon Musk are talking to a black person, they're probably not, go, oh my God, whatever. But at the same time, they do have this view that that white people have got racism so horrible. What is wrong? Yeah, they do have this view that white people are the victims. They've somehow come up with this thing. Caitlin had such an opportunity to help the community, but stayed. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It stays safe in yeah, exactly. And also, sometimes I feel when some high profile people in the trans community, because she's not the only one, who pivot towards Trump, it's because they feel he's an yeah, they feel maybe safer because maybe if they feel they try to cater to right wing people, that will make them feel safer. But he wouldn't want her to lift the seat on the crapper in the newly marbled renovated. Yeah, no, no, I don't think he would want anyone to do that except for himself. Yeah, um, and that would be quite a view. That would be quite a view of that. But yeah, I totally agree. I don't think Trump really cares about any of this stuff, which I think makes it worse. Um, and but yeah, but but they do believe that sometime in the future, white people will become the minority, and they feel like there's going to be like this revenge thing, right? And Elon Musk thinks like this because he comes from South Africa and he grew up under apartheid in South Africa. And then after apartheid was finished and Nelson Mandela became the president, um, he feels South Africa went backwards. So he thinks what's going to happen in America is that when whites become the minority, that things will get worse, right? So it is racism, but it's not KK. It's a different type of racism, and I think where people get it wrong, it's not KKK type of racism, because they in their own heads got to go. But I had loved this and the Mandarin conversation. Has now returned to politics. That is now lovely to meet you all. Thank you, Eddie. Thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. I hope you join again soon. It was really good talking to you. So many are multiracial generations, yet people speak little like they're two races. Hypocrisy, exactly. Racist elitism, exactly. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, racist elitism. Yeah, I think so. I just think that I think they don't have a problem with race as long as white people are the majority race. That's what I think. And they feel like you're right, it's something different, but can't describe. Yeah, it's not the same. Like people, I think sometimes I hear people go Elon, Trump, and that, but it's not the same type of racism. The old KKK could not have sat in the same room with a black person. Like it just like this is different. This is like one on one. They would be fine with black people. Like they would be fine with it. It's just they don't like it, they don't like the idea that white culture will be overtaken. It's like a cultural thing to them, like that once whites become the minority, that suddenly they won't have the culture anymore, right? It's like white grievance. They're trying to pretend like they're the victims. They actually think they're the victims. They think they're the new black people, right? They actually do. They think they're the new black people. They think that they're the ones. They think like they're the ones, like black people. So, as long as the minority knows their place and doesn't challenge the power structure, it's fine. Yeah, but the thing is, they're actually completely wrong, right, Dava? Yeah, because what's going to happen is it's not going to be um, all black people in the future or what. It's going to be mixed race. It's going to be some Asian people who get married, who have babies with a black person. It could be a white person who gets married to an Asian person. It could be, an Indian person who gets married to, I don't know, an Australian. So it's all a whole bunch of different. It's not going to be just black and white or this. It's going to be a mixture of different races because what's happening is that countries like India or Asia, they're having a lot more babies than a lot of the Western countries are. So because of that, eventually there will be less white people, but it's not white people as such. Because remember, they used to call Italians. They said Italians weren't white, right? They said people from Spain weren't white. They said, but so what we call white now has changed over time. People don't look at Italians and go, "Oh, they're black," but they used to. They used to think of Italians as being like that. So it will happen so slowly over time. and it will happen so organically, and it will be Asian, it will be European, it will be like, India, people from India as part of Asia. It'll be such a mixture of different cultures that you won't even notice it. Yeah, you won't even notice it at all. Hate Indians, but love their work in the tech field. Hate Asians, but yeah, exactly right. Exactly. And Joe, that is the essential rancid core of Trump allied bet selectivity silent republics. Exactly. The Irish. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. The only people I give exception to that is people from New Zealand. I don't think they should. No, I'm joking. But anyway, I have to go. It's 11:38, and so I do need to get my beauty sleep. It's getting a bit late, but I had a very good time tonight. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Sorry we didn't talk more about politics. Next time I'll talk more about politics. Thank you, Sherry. Thanks, Levy. Thanks, Kimmy, so much. Um, yeah, think it does. Music does unite the world. It makes us a better place for you and for me and for the whole anti-human race. Thank you, Car. Thank you, Elise. Thank you so much. Michael Hutchins is the best. We all agree with that. We all do agree with that. Donna, apologies again. Blues and Bob, you're still here. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Thank you, Levy. Again, it was so much fun. I'll thank you, Sherry Knight. Thank you. I will put what once thanks T, thanks a lot. Once I finish it, thanks Car. Once I finish it, I will upload the video to my Substack account. So if you're not subscribed to me, subscribe to me. And then you can watch the video back again if you want to. And Kimmy, I think you should watch this video. I think it's really important you watch this whole video. So, all right. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. Good night. Good night. Good morning. Good morning.